Hey everybody, we are back again for a 2021-2022 NHL season preview, and today we're going to be looking at the new kids on the block, the newest expansion team in the NHL, the Seattle Kraken. This is going to be a really interesting year for Seattle as they come into the league. I know I have my thoughts and expectations for them this year. But anytime there's a new team in the NHL starting completely from nothing and building themselves up, it's very interesting. And it's going to be fun to watch them out there on the ice this year. I am very excited for the Seattle Kraken. So we'll take a look here, preview their season. Before we get into it, I just ask you, please subscribe and hit that thumbs up. It helps the channel so much and is greatly appreciated. But let's get into it. And before we look forward, we have to look back. But wait. There's really no looking back with the Seattle Kraken. They did not exist last year, last season. There were they existed as a franchise. We knew that they were starting play, but they did not play last year. There was no team. There was no roster. They are a brand new expansion team for the NHL, playing their first ever hockey games. And that is going to be really cool to see, especially when they open up on opening night. Their off-season moves, their additions and subtractions, well, their entire team is additions, whether it was via trade, free agency, expansion draft, whichever way. Their entire team is playing their first ever game for the Seattle Kraken, obviously. And on the subtraction side, well, nobody left because nobody was on the roster last year. So, it's a brand new starting fresh team in Seattle, and that is where we get into the jokes aside and into the real meat of this video. My projected roster for Seattle this coming season. It's going to be interesting. You know, they obviously went defense heavy in the expansion draft and made some other moves outside of the expansion draft, whether that was via trade or free agency. And it's going to be an interesting lineup this year for Seattle, and I do think they're going to be a competitive team. But when we look at the forwards up front, obviously you've got your big names like Jordan Eberle, Jaden Schwartz, Jared McCann, Brandon Tanev. Those guys will be obviously playing big roles in the lineup, as will Alex Wenberg, Jonas Donskoy, Kalle Jarnkrok, Marcus Johansson, Mason Appleton, Riley Sheehan. I think Morgan Geekie makes this team. He's had a really solid start to the preseason. I think he was a very talented young player that was just kind of buried in Carolina because of how many talented young players Carolina has. But I think Morgan Geekie makes this team. I liked what I've seen from him in the preseason. I think he could be a really under-the-radar star for this team. And I think he could have a really big year this year. Nathan Bastian coming in as a guy that I like a lot. He's going to be a bruiser on that fourth line. And Colin Blackwell coming over from the Rangers, a little bit more of a veteran guy, will be good to have in the lineup. So those are the forwards that I have making the team. I've got them keeping 13 forwards and 8 defensemen on the roster. On the back end, we've got Mark Giordano, Adam Larson, Jamie Oleksiak, Vince Dunn, Carson Soucy. Those guys are like absolute locks. Those 5 guys will be in the lineup on a nightly basis. I think kind of the 6, 7, 8 spots are kind of up for grabs between Jeremy Lauzon, Hayden Fleury, and Will Borgen. I have them keeping all 8 on the NHL roster, but it's as far as who gets playing time and who doesn't is kind of, I think, a little bit up in the air. We'll probably see all 3 of them at points. But as far as like who starts as the number 6 guy in the lineup, that I think is pretty much a fight between those 3, and we'll see come the start of the season. And whoever doesn't obviously will be there as an extra, and they'll definitely get into games this season. In goal, it's pretty self-explanatory, especially with the trade of Vitek Vanacek back to Washington. Their top 2 goaltenders are Philip Grubauer, their big free agent signing, and Chris Driedger, who they got from Florida. And, obviously that's going to be their tandem this year. Grubauer was a Vezina finalist last year. Driedger had a strong year last year. There's no doubt about their goaltending. As far as depth goes, Yanni Gourde is going to start the season on LTIR. He had off-season surgery after the playoffs last year and is going to miss the first part of the season. But when he is healthy and ready to come back, he is going to be inserted right into the lineup and will play a major role on this team. Ryan Donato, they signed him, kind of a depth guy. He could end up making the roster, but with Morgan Geekie making it, in my opinion, somebody's going to have to get waived and somebody's going to have to get out of that 13 forward group. So my pick for that was Donato, but we'll have to see. It could be somebody else. But if Morgan Geekie makes it, then somebody's going to have to go. Or if Geekie doesn't make it, then Donato will definitely I would imagine Donato would definitely be the guy that would make the opening night roster in his place. They also have Cole Lind and Carson Twarynski. Those guys are probably going to be starting in the AHL, I would imagine, but they are depth pieces that can be called up throughout the year if needed. On the back end, obviously I have them carrying 8 defensemen, so it would take quite a few guys out of the lineup to need more on defense, but they do have Dennis Chalowski and Connor Carrick, who have NHL experience, available to be called up potentially. And third goaltender, it's looking like it's probably Joey Decord. That's who I would imagine would be their 3 if they did need a call-up, but Grubauer and Drieger are certainly going to be relied upon heavily and be the main tandem. The only time we would see Decord would be if one of those guys were to get injured. So that is my projected roster for the Seattle Kraken. Obviously, it's just a projection. Some things can change, some things can go differently, but that's who I think is going to be on that opening night roster, in my opinion. So as far as this team and just my expectations and what I think we're going to see from them this year, I think we're going to see a very competitive team that is going to be right in the thick of the playoff race in the Pacific Division. I think that they're going to be competing with the likes of Calgary and Vancouver and LA for that kind of, those last playoff spot or two in the Pacific. This certainly is not a bad team. They're built very well defensively. This is certainly going to be a defense-first, low-scoring team. They really don't have the big guns on offense to put up a ton of goals, which I think is kind of the one weakness or one question about this team is, are they going to be able to score enough to be a playoff team? But they're certainly not a bad team. They're certainly not going to be bottom of the division or anything like that. I don't think they're going to be Vegas and come out the way Vegas did in their first year and win the division and go to the finals or anything like that. I would be really, really shocked if that were to happen. But I do think they are going to be a very competitive team. They're going to be in the mix for a playoff spot. I certainly don't think it's a guarantee that they make it. I certainly don't think that it's unlikely either. I don't think they're a team that's a long shot for the playoffs. I think they're going to be right in that battle all season long for a playoff spot out west. And they have very, very solid goaltending. Obviously, Grubauer was a Vezina finalist last year. Drieger had a really strong year down in Florida. So if those two guys can continue playing the way that they did last season, they are going to be very good in goal. Then overall, their team defense is very good. They went defense heavy in the expansion draft, and they just have a really good defensive team. I think this is going to be a shutdown, low-scoring team that is going to focus on defense first and try and win games 2-1. And that's going to be what will bring them success. If they get into games where they're having to score 4 or 5 goals to win, I don't think they're going to win very many of those games. But if they can keep the games 2-1, 3-2, low-scoring, I think this team has a chance to win quite a few games this year and be a very competitive team. And they're built very defense heavy, defense first. Even their forward groups, a lot of good defensive forwards. And it looks like their main, focus is going to be to keep the puck out of their own net. And then the question with them is, do they have enough offense? Do they have enough goal scoring? And that will obviously be answered over the course of the season. But they don't really have that high-flying offensive guy. They don't have super big goal scorers. I would expect Jordan Eberle to probably lead this team in goals, and might only have like 25 or 26. So they're going to need a very balanced attack up front. They're going to need to be able to roll 4 lines, which certainly looking at their roster, they should be able to. They're going to need to get some contributions from depth guys. But, if they can play that low-scoring, defense-first hockey and win that way, then this could be a pretty good team this year. And, they almost remind me of like the Dallas Stars in 2020, especially in the regular season where Dallas was very low-scoring, didn't have a great offense, but, didn't give up goals either. And that great team defense and great goaltending allowed them to be a playoff team. And then once Dallas got to the playoffs in 2020, we obviously know what happened. They were able to pick up the offense. They went on a run, and they were able to make it all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals. So I think that this would be that. I would expect that style from the Seattle Kraken this year. And we'll see if it's good enough to get them into the postseason or if they miss out. But I certainly think they're going to be in competition for it all season long and right in the thick of that playoff race out in the Pacific Division. So Seattle, it is going to be a very, very interesting year for them. Obviously, anytime there's a brand new team coming in, it's always really cool for hockey fans. And I can't wait to see them out there on the ice. It's going to be a lot of fun. I love their jerseys. I love the branding. The colors are incredible. They look absolutely awesome out there. I like the team that they've built. I know they took a lot of flack for not taking some of the bigger names that were available and not taking, some more offensive guys like Tarasenko or Voracek or whatever. But honestly, I like what they did building this team. I think, they took a lot of younger guys. They're setting themselves up for more of the future than just trying to go out and win right now, which I think is smart, especially when you're an expansion team. They got very good goaltending. They built a strong, mostly young defense core. Obviously, Giordano is up there and Larsson's been around a while and whatnot. But for the most part, they've got some really good young defensemen, really highlighted, I think, by Carson Soucy and Vince Dunn. And they built a defensive team that's going to keep the puck out of their own net. And when you're playing in the NHL, I think, one of the biggest things is almost the most important thing is keeping the puck out of your own net. And I don't think Seattle's really going to have a lot of issues with that. Their issues are going to come on the offensive end. And do they really have enough firepower to score enough goals? And that's what we're going to find out. We had the same questions about Vegas when they first came in. And obviously Vegas did extremely well. I do think Vegas maybe had a little bit more of weaponry than what Seattle does, but still, if they can play that low-scoring defensive style effectively, then Seattle might be able to have quite a bit of success as well. So they're going to be a fun team to watch. I can't wait to see them out on the ice, and just having another brand new team in the league in the NHL is really, really cool. So that is my preview of the Seattle Kraken. Like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. All those links are down in the description. If you'd like to further support the channel, our merchandise store, membership link, and donation link are down in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.